Chapter 12. I'm not sure what I expected to see exactly, but when I peered into the tiny room and saw Timothy lying so still on a cot, I felt afraid. Even in the dim candlelight, I could see the wicked bruise on the side of his head where Richard had slammed him with his seal. Oh, how could I have let him go in the first place? I should have thrown myself in front of the horse to stop him. "Timothy," Trey said softly. He moved closer. "Timothy." When Timothy didn't move, Trey sat down on the cot and gingerly reached out to touch his brother on the shoulder. The next moment, Trey was in a necklock and Timothy was rubbing Trey's head hard with his knuckles. "Let me go," Trey protested, squirming and laughing. "Lisbette, tell him to stop." Timothy had not perceived me up until now, but now he looked up and saw me. Immediately, he dropped Trey to the floor and stood up. "What are you doing here?" I held my candle up so I could see him better. I felt relief flowing down over my body in warm waves. "You're here. You're safe." "I got here late last night. You weren't worried, were you?" "Are you joking? The last time I saw you, you were stumbling onto your horse and riding off into the darkness, and you ask if I was worried?" I paused now to examine the small room. What with the bed, Timothy, and Trey, there didn't seem much room for anything else. I stepped backward into the doorway. "Did you ever find Richard?" "No, but it hasn't been easy to search for him," Trey added. "But Thomas and I have been looking for him all day. Father woke us up early this morning and sent us out. We must have ridden 50 miles today." "Does Father know you're up here?" Timothy asked Trey. "It was his idea," Trey said simply. Timothy gave me a ruthful smile. I should have known. "But Timothy," I said, "what about the seal?" "I'm going out to look for Richard again tonight." I suppose my expression must have changed because he said, "What? What is it?" I hesitated, debating whether I should say anything. "I found a knife in the old church today. Richard had it the last time I saw him, but George Hardgrove saw it too." "You mean the captain?" Trey asked. "What were you doing riding with him this morning anyway? Thomas and I saw you two on the highway." Timothy and Trey were both looking at me, waiting for the answer. Addressing Timothy, I said, "He was under the mistaken notion that I might lead him to you. Instead, I think I might have accidentally led him to Richard. He followed me to the old church, and that's where I found the knife. I picked it up when I thought George wasn't looking, but he told me tonight that he saw me." Then I added a warning. "I'm sure that's where they'll be looking hardest right now." "What were you doing at the old church?" Timothy asked. "Didn't you think that might look suspicious?" "I was just, why can't I be at the old church if I want to?" He opened his mouth to argue, gave his head a shake, and turned to Trey and said, "I suppose the soldiers have all left the house by now." "Yes, did you hear them up here?" Timothy picked up the tinder box and used it to light the candle on the tiny table at the head of a cot, right outside the door. "I knew they'd never find you," Trey said, "but you should have seen Mother tonight. She was white as a ghost. Timothy, listen, can't I go with you when you go out searching? I can show you all the places Thomas and I searched so you don't waste time." "You need to stay here with Henry." "He's fine," Trey said with a dismissive wave of the hand. "But anyway, Father can take care of things around here. You've got to let me go with you, at least for a few hours. I know I won't be able to sleep." "No, it'll be too dangerous." "Then why are you going out?" I ask. "After all, Richard got himself into this mess. If he wasn't such an imbecile, he'd be safe with you tonight." "Because he has the seal, and even though he is an imbecile, I can't leave him out there alone." "How do you think you're going to find him all on your own? 100 people must have been out there today looking for him. What makes you think you can find him in the dark by yourself? You think I should just sit here instead?" "That's exactly what I think." "That's fine, but since it's none of your affair, you don't have a say in this." "Not that again. After I carried that thing for 3 whole days, keeping it safe from robbers and soldiers, you're going to tell me it's none of my affair?" "That was then. Your part is over now. Just go home with your family and let us take care of the rest." "Oh yes, you, Trey, and Thomas, you and 2 teenage boys are going to take on a squadron of King's Guards." Trey stepped forward and demanded, "And so what if we are?" Timothy pulled Trey back. "The seal is out there. If it falls into the wrong hands, it will be taken back to Prince Frederick. King Francis charged Richard and me to place the seal into no one's hands but Prince Henrik's. He knew that his brother Frederick would try to put himself on the throne, and if he gets the seal, he could very well succeed." "Then why is the seal here in the first place?" "There's a meeting set to take place here at Steedsley where Prince Henrik himself will take the seal. A royal escort is scheduled to arrive any day now." I blinked. "Prince Henrik is coming here?" "Yes. The king knew Steedsley would be a safe rendezvous for his son. That is why he chose me to take the seal to Easton." It was too much to take in. The prince in Easton? But why should why send Henrik all the way out to the east to get something that was in the west in the first place? "Because Henrik hasn't been in the west. He's been here, out east." "In the east?" The king sent him here as part of his son's education. But no one is supposed to know about this meeting, which includes those men who are searching for Richard and me right now. If they find the seal, then they'll turn around and take it right back to Ottleton, where it will end up in Prince Frederick's hands." "But if they catch you," I said in a small voice, "they may kill you." "There are some things in this life that are worth dying for. This is one of them." "No," I tried to say firmly, "no, this is not your fight. You don't put your life down for strangers who live hundreds of miles away in a world that has nothing to do with us. Don't feed me that garbage. It's your job to stay alive for the people here, where your family and friends that want you and need you live. Can't you understand that by preventing a tyrant from taking over as king, that we ensure our way of life here as it has been? How can you be sure that Henrik won't turn out to be a horrible king?" Trey stepped forward. "Because we can't," Timothy said, pulling Trey back again. "But I can guarantee that any man who plots, steals, and kills to get to the throne has no chance of being a good king. So my family is putting our chips behind Prince Henrik. He's the rightful heir." "But what if—" He waited. "What if what?" Oh, what was the use? "Never mind. Go out and look for Richard. I'm done with all of this." I turned around, picked up my candle, and returned to the hallway. I heard 2 steps of footsteps following me. "Lisbette," Timothy said. "What? Did you see your aunt today? Why do you care?" "Did she agree to—" He checked over his shoulder at Trey. "Well, you know. Did she agree to what you needed?" "Oh, yes," I said airily. "Everything is going to work out just fine." "Are you lying to me? What would it matter if I was?" He turned around and seized Trey. "You, get downstairs. Leave us alone for a moment." "But I want to stay," he protested. Timothy gave his brother a shove. Grumbling, Trey slunk by me and disappeared down the corridor. Timothy waited until the boy was out of sight and then said, "If you don't want to marry me, that's fine. Who cares? But don't lie to me." I raised my eyebrows. "Why not?" "Because I can handle anything you dish out, but not your lies." "I don't see how it makes any difference one way or the other." "It makes a difference to me. Somewhere along the way you stopped trusting me, and I don't know why. Go get married to the next guy you see. Marry George for all I care. But just don't ever lie to me again." I stood very still. While he had been talking, he had come very near to me. I felt a strange urgency to reach out and touch him, to assure him that he didn't have to worry. I resisted the urge. It was probably merely a maternal instinct to comfort him. That is, if maternal instincts make you tremble at the same time. I cleared my throat and said, "Fine. I promise I will endeavor to be honest with you from now on." He paused, as if not quite able to believe me. "Thank you." I started down the hallway toward the stairs, but I halted at the sound of his voice asking, "Did she give you what you asked her for?" I answered without turning around, "No." I hurried until I turned the corner and found Trey seated and sulking on the steps waiting for me. I stepped around him and started downward. He popped up and followed close on my heels. "Is he angry at you, Lisbette?" "No." "But you're angry, aren't you?" "Aw, Lisbette, don't be angry with us." "I'm not angry at you, Trey." "Well, don't be angry at Timothy. He can't help being stubborn. All of us Easton men are that way. I know he's sometimes hard to live with, but don't forget he'd give you the shirt off his back if you ask him to." "Trey," I said, trying not to think of Timothy without his shirt on, "this has more to do than being stubborn." "But if you just give him a chance." I stopped on the stairs. "And then what? What would happen if I gave him a chance?" "I know what this Saturday is. Everyone does. Would it be that bad marrying Timothy?" I put my arm around him. "You're 13, I said, and when you're 13 you think you know everything. But then you grow up and everything gets complicated. You'll understand someday." He sighed. "But who else would I want for a sister-in-law?" I smiled and kissed him in the hair. "Why don't you just wait a few years and maybe I'll marry you instead?" "Don't tease me," he said, pulling away from me. Then he rubbed his head where I'd kissed him, and don't kiss me. I don't even let my mother do that. On our way back, Trey stopped at Henry's door and peeked inside the room. "You awake, Henry?" "Are you kidding?" answered someone in a lispy voice. "Who could sleep in this get-up?" "Would you like to meet Lisbette now? She's right here." "Sure," he said, slurring the sounds. "Bring her in." "Trey, no," I whispered. "I don't want to see him while he's sick." But he took my hand and pulled me into Henry's bedroom. Henry was sitting in bed, in a nightshirt, reading a book. His swollen face was tied up with a hot wrap to soothe his jaws. Beside him in a rocking chair was an old woman fast asleep. When Henry saw me, he swiped his hand through the air. "Hi." Hello," I said awkwardly. "I'm sorry to hear that you're sick." "Oh, he's not really sick," Trey said, jumping on the bed beside him. "Really?" I said, "because he looks sick to me." "I fooled the soldiers too," Henry mumbled through his swollen cheeks. Then he reached up and untied the wrap at the top of his head. When this was done, he stuck his fingers into his mouth and began to pull out bunches of sodden rags. He dropped the stuff in his lap and said, "There, how's that?" "Why, you little fraud, what did you—" But the words froze in my mouth. Without the mump's disguise, his face instantly became recognizable. You look just like Prince Henrik, Trey asked. That's because he is.